I think experience is the best teacher in all facets. And so to play college football at a place like Tennessee, extremely high-profile program, playing on TV every Saturday, national TV, great big crowds and demands on your time as a student athlete. I think that experience prepared me as much as it could for the professional ranks. Now, major adjustment to the physical part of the game, the speed of the game, the complexity of defenses. There's a major adjustment there. I think playing at Tennessee prepared me as much as I could, but there's still going to be those growing pains. And then, the media demands are more intense, but you have a preparation. I mean, the biggest challenge for most kids and for me is the adjustment of having money in your pocket. I mean, that is the biggest change. I mean, for football, for me, sometimes I'm kind of embarrassed to say it was my first job. When I was in the summers, I was playing so much baseball and working out for football. And I was really, I guess I was kind of ahead of the curve as a high school kid as far as off-season workouts as a football player. I mean, most kids, they play football when football season starts, but I was, throwing pass patterns with my receivers in, May, June, and July. And I'm calling them going, where are you? It's 12 o'clock. And this guy's going, well, I have a job this summer. I'm going, well, that's not going to cut it. You need to be here throwing with your, with the quarterback. And so, I had my chores at my house or whatnot, but I never had a office job or never had a, employee contract. So that when I signed my contract with the Colts, it was the first contract I'd ever signed. Just understanding kind of what that's about. And, I think the best thing that I said that I've kind of believed is that I think the worst question that the media asks athletes when they sign their contracts or when they get drafted is, what are you going to do with your money? That's a bad question. There's not a good answer that people want to hear to come from that, And so I blame the media for asking the question, but the answer that I gave, which I think all of them should say, is I'm going to earn it, and that's what I said. That's what you do. So I'm going to earn it. And not I'm going to go buy this or buy that. I'm going to go earn it. And so that's how I've always felt about the money that you make as an athlete, the money that you're paid on your potential. To go earn it, to make the owner and the president happy of the investment they made in you by working hard to be the best player you can be. The cerebral part of the game is the most challenging part of the game. I mean, you wouldn't be in the NFL if you didn't have the physical skills. I mean, I've spent tons of time, like I said, the workouts as a high school kid, lifting weights, running by yourself. You do that, but you have to do that. The cerebral part is where you can advance yourself and have to constantly stay on top of. Both of them really do. I mean, if you ever stop working out, that's when you get injured, you get behind, but you have to be so sharp, mentally. I think sometimes you can get away with the physical part with being a great athlete. Well, I can overcome that, but the cerebral part, you can't get behind in the mental aspect of the game. Everything happens so fast. Football, I always say, before you get to the actual physical part of the game, before you get to trying to avoid the 300-pounders or completing passes against these guys that are fast, you have noise, which is an irritant. You can't hear, And how many other people work where you just can't hear? You have weather, 60% of the time. Sometimes you play in a dome, it's perfect weather, but weather's a factor. You have time. That's the big difference, Baseball players, there's no time. There's no clock. The guy can pitch whenever he wants, we have to operate under a clock, and then you have 10 other guys that you're kind of trying to coordinate out there. So if you're not strong mentally and sharp mentally and rested, you will get behind in that aspect of the game. I think character is what you're doing when nobody else is around. To me, that's the best way I know to describe it. Are you the right kind of guy? Do you have the right things inside of you? Do you love the game? Would you, like I said, would you play for free in the NFL? Like I said, I wouldn't tell my owner that, but I would. I think you want to be around those kind of guys that love it, guys that are thinking about it. They always say, don't take your job home. When you go home, don't take. Well, I don't agree with that. I think if you love what you do, you need to. There's nothing wrong with being home with your family and thinking about the game that Sunday, or thinking about, boy, I think we might need to do this. That means you love it. It doesn't mean you're obsessed with it. It doesn't mean that your priorities are out of whack. It means you love what you do. And so I think it has a lot to do with the character of the guys that you have on your team. It's kind of it's one of those buzzwords that's just kind of been created. And that's the big thing when guys coming out of the draft and the analysts are, breaking him down. And so he's got the physical part. I'm not sure if he has the intangibles. Well, give us a list of something. Tell me, give me something. So, you hear the term the sixth sense, in the pocket. He can run, but he doesn't. You have to feel these guys rushing you, and there's something to that. I guess that would be an example of an intangible. Do you just feel something? You feel somebody about to hit you. Do you slide up or do you slide, the other way? I think what they're talking about a little bit is that, kind of that ability to elevate the rest of the guys around you. I think your presence probably has a lot to do with that. That might be considered an intangible, something that you can't touch or whatever, but just when you walk into that huddle, or you walk into that practice field, letting everybody else know, hey, it's time to get down to business, and hey, we got a chance with this guy in the huddle. I think quarterbacking especially, you need to have a presence about you in the way that you walk and you carry yourself and the way that you speak. I don't read it much, the newspapers. You like to kind of read to keep up with the world, what's going on in the world, and certainly in the sporting world. And so it's hard to read the sports page without, if there's a big picture of you in an article. It's hard to kind of go, well, let me just see what it says. But I've gotten a lot better at that, of kind of not reading the good articles along with the bad articles. And I think you got to be consistent. Don't read the paper after you won a game, and then when you lose, cancel the subscription to the paper. So I'm pretty consistent that I've kind of stopped doing both. Ultimately, the old cliche, it's about what you know inside. Did you make the right decision? Did you do everything that you can? The thing that gives me peace of mind at night after a game or after a season is that I knew that I did everything that I could to get ready to play that game. I couldn't have prepared harder. I couldn't have studied any more tape. I couldn't have spent any last-minute details talking to my receivers about. I went into that game ready. Boy, I'd love to have this throwback, or God, I wish, we just could have gotten in the end zone on that play. But I don't sleep well that night, but I can sleep knowing that I did everything I could to get ready. So, to be criticized, that's. I don't really agree that it's part of it, but it is. It's just it's part of the game that you're going to be criticized and you're going to be critiqued and analyzed from every different angle. So you better have thick skin as a quarterback in this league. That's a big part of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with. I think sometimes the media doesn't like when they're challenged by that. I think there's nothing wrong with, you see guys that are speaking up for themselves, but you don't. As soon as it becomes a distraction to you, that's when it's getting to you. If you go into a game and you go, boy, I better not throw this pass because if I throw this interception, the media's going to criticize me. They're going to call on the radio shows and talk about me. That's when it's affecting what you do. You need to go out there and play the way you know how to play and deal with it, the way you want to deal with it. You try to keep them in check. I think as a quarterback, that's a real key. I'm kind of jealous, almost envious of some of my teammates that before the game, they're headbutting and they're just all wound up, and I'm like, it'd be great to be like that. And basically some of these guys that might be on kickoff team, their job that day is to run down as fast as they can and hit the guy in front of them as hard as they can. That's their job. I think it'd be fun if that was your kind of one assignment for that day. But for me, because of the mental part, I'm very focused. I mean, you're intense. You're intense, and I think that's something that people don't differentiate. To say he's not emotional because he's not, throwing his helmet and slamming the Gatorade cup. That's not because you're not emotional. You're intense and you're focused and you're ready to move on to the next series. People talk about Eli and I both. Well, they don't seem like very emotional guys. You can't play the game without emotion, but you just don't have to, like I said, slam your helmet to prove that you're emotional and you're intense. You're intense in the way that you're reading the defense. You're intense in the throw that you make. And my thing is if you throw a touchdown pass, I'm already thinking about the next series. I don't think you don't need to take a lot of time to celebrate that. I celebrate after the game. I guess I'm emotional at my house after the game when I'm, celebrating, with my friends and family. But I think during the game, I'm very intense and focused on trying to accomplish the next goal. Your job is to sort of put everybody else in the right position. Also, it's a lot of responsibility for a quarterback every single play. To me, that's the biggest challenge. And I just kind of compare them to what other athletes go through. And, like I said, you say, well, an individual sport, a golfer, for example, well, he's by himself out there. He's always, he doesn't have somebody that can help him out. He doesn't have a teammate that can help him out. I agree with that, but he don't have anybody else to worry about either. So I think that carries more weight than not having anybody to bail you out. I think, to get 11 guys all in one direction, to me, is a bigger challenge. That's their job. Their job is to put you down, and you get used to it. There's a little bit of I remember the first time, my first pro game in the preseason. I was thinking, God, this pro ball. Sure, I know they hit harder. It's got to be. I would get hit a lot in college. I'm going, well, this is pro ball though. These guys hit harder. And I was in my hotel room practicing getting hit and falling on the bed. Just kind of giving in. My pregame preparation. So you get used to that, but you get so kind of focused on your job at hand and what you want, trying to accomplish, of completing this pass or getting your team in the end zone, that you kind of forget about it. But they remind you well when they hit you in the back. That they're still there, but you can't drop back thinking about them. If you're doing that, then that's going to affect your decision making. It's a real challenge and a real issue. I think. I was reading a statistic. They had a ranking of quarterbacks. It was a great statistic. And the statistic was the percentage of a touchdown drive after an interception. And to me, that's a telling statistic. And the guys that have a high percentage are the guys that have short memories. They talk about having amnesia as a quarterback. You better move on from it. It's hard to say you forget about it, because I think you need to. You want to learn from it. You want to address it. You can't just say, "Hey, it never happened." When you throw an interception, first thing I say is, now why did that happen? Was that my fault? Was that a poor decision by me? Was it bad luck? A tip ball, for example, or the wind, literally blew the ball to the guy, or was it a miscommunication, and it always comes back to the quarterback. Usually, I'm going to feel like it's my responsibility, because if the receiver ran the wrong route, I'm going to say, well, that's my fault for not being sure he knew what to do. But you better be able to put it behind you right away. Otherwise, it's going to drag you further down. An interception, a loss, you name it. You deal with it, you learn from it, you address it, and it's hard to get over, especially a loss. It is hard when you spend so much time during 1 week, late night studying, film preparation, weightlifting, practice, for a 3-hour game, which you only play half of, and you lose on a field goal. That's frustrating. That is very frustrating. But and you don't get to play till the following Sunday is a problem. Sometimes I'm always kind of jealous of baseball players. They get to play the next day and go out and do something about it. Football is a long time to stew over, but you kind of take Sunday night, maybe a little bit of Monday, but we always say our rule is the pouting has to stop Monday at 5 o'clock. You better be moving on to the next opponent. Now, when you lose the last game of the season in the playoffs, you're allowed a little more time to pout. You're allowed, in the late January, maybe February into March, but once the off-season program starts for the following year, you better be over that hangover and ready to move on. And same thing, what do we need to do to get better? And that's been very common for us. We've had some very disappointing losses in the playoffs, and you hate to admit it. You hate to admit that somebody else is better than you. And I mean, that's a real stubbornness there, but you study it and you go, gosh, we're good, but hey, obviously we're not good enough. We're not as good as we think we are. How do we need to do? What do we need to do to get better? Do we need to get some more players? Do we need to work harder? What do I need to do to get better? And so that's what we've done. And to me, it's the same exact approach this year that we accomplished our goal last year. We win this Super Bowl, and you enjoy it. And instead of pouting for 2 months, you get to kind of celebrate for 2 months. But once the off-season program starts for the next year, it's over with. It's behind you, and you move on. You say, how am I going to get better this year? I think getting with the right team and having some good guys around you are going to make you a better player. So, you go to a college that you get on a team that has this great quarterback and you're a wide receiver, he's probably going to make you a better player. And whereas the guy that went to a school that had a bad quarterback, the receiver never got to showcase his talents, So some things outside your control can play a part in it. I think the simple answer is work ethic. I mean, you're going to have talent if you're playing at one level, but my deal was always you better work harder in college than you did in high school to make it in college. And you get to pro ball, you better work a lot harder than you did in college to make it harder than that if you want to excel at the pro level. And that's what gets some guys, I think. I think they get to the pro ball and they go, I've made it. I've done it. And you haven't done anything. I mean, you get drafted, that means you were a good college player. It means you were a great college player. But it's the NFL is now what are you about to do? I mean, they're paying you for what they hope you do, and so you better be burning some hours and putting in the time in order to accomplish those goals. And so that's one thing that can never be sacrificed is your preparation and your work ethic, keeping yourself in shape, staying sharp mentally, working with your teammates to improve yourself as a player. I'm proudest of some of the work that we've done off the field or things that I just take enormous amount of pride in, and ideally with our charity foundation. It's called the Payback Foundation. Payback Foundation, basically, we provide grants to programs that provide leadership and growth opportunities to children at risk in Indiana, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana. The three communities that have made an impact on me and that have been supportive of me. This is kind of the way to pay back, appropriately named, for the blessings and support I've had in my life. And so, and there's more kids in those three areas that we could touch in a lifetime, but our goal is that's not going to keep us from trying. We're going to try to touch those kids. There's a lot of kids that don't have life easy. In your first question, you talked about my childhood. I had two great parents and a great support system growing up, and I understand that not all kids have those same opportunities. So with the foundation, we're trying to help those kids have that kind of support and have some of those opportunities by providing them the opportunity to go to Disney World. We send up 30 kids on a Disney cruise every year. Most of them, it's their first time flying, first time to see water. We're bringing them to Washington, D.C. this year. And there's no way some of these kids growing up in some of these backgrounds would ever have a chance to go to the White House or see the Capitol. So providing them, hopefully memories that will last a lifetime, and, talking to them also about trying to do the right thing. And so it's hard to have a scale in a charity work about what's a win. There's no scoreboard there. Football, it's very clear who wins. And but I guess when you get a letter from a teacher, I get some letters from teachers, and I got a letter from one particular teacher. She said, first of all, dear Mr. Manning, I do not like football. That's the first letter. First thing she writes out of the box. So let's just don't beat around the bush here. But she says, some of my students are involved with your Payback Foundation and some of your programs. And because they feel like someone's looking out for them, they're doing better in my class. So I want to let you know that. I guess that's kind of a touchdown, if you will, in regard to the Payback Foundation and our charity work. So we're real proud of that. And I think it'll continue after I finish playing, but I know we can make the biggest impact right now while I'm currently an NFL quarterback. I try not to think about it, but you have to, you know it's there, and a little bit jealous of the golfers that, basically there is no age requirement. They can kind of play till whatever age, and you wish it was like that because, I'm 31, I'm going into my 10th year, and I've always said to play, 16 years I think is realistic. I want to be able to play well for 16 years. If I ever get to the point where I'm just not the player, you're going to lose some skills as you get older, but I don't want to be one of those guys who's just kind of hanging on. I want to be, try to walk away on my own terms, but to be, to be fair to your teammates, or to be, like you said, earning your contract. But that's a goal of mine. My dad played for 15 years. Marino and Elway played 16 and 17. I'd like to play for the same team for that amount of time, which is kind of rare these days, is a goal of mine. But when I do think about it, I get sad because I know I will struggle with that because, and I don't think, I'm not ashamed to admit that because, talk about a routine, and not since your first year in the NFL, not since 1998. You're talking about going back to, I think this is a freshman in high school, that, every day from August till, the season is grown in pro ball, but, August to December is practice is at this time. It's 4 to 6 in high school, it's 2 to 4 in college, and it's 1 to 3 in pro ball. But that is your routine. And then when you're not playing, you're lifting weights and getting ready. So all of a sudden, at this age, that stops. You're not getting up in the morning, you're not driving to practice, you're not putting on a helmet and shoulder pads. It's a major adjustment. And my dad told me how difficult it was. He retired. He went out when he was ready to go out on his own terms, but he just said it's hard because there's a smell in October of football, and to be not being able to do that. So what do I want to do? I think it's hard to say. I kid about, so I hear some guys talking about what they're going to do when they're finished playing, or talking about this investment or business that they're involved currently. And I kind of look at them, I go, you're not doing your current job all that well. I'd like you to focus a little more on the blocking and the catching of this football part before you get into this real estate deal. So, and I say that, and I'm kidding with them, but I kind of believe that too, is that it's not fair for me to, be thinking about other things and preparing for other things if I'm not giving my current job its 100 undivided attention. And so, sure, I have participated in other things, and you have your off-the-field commitments, your sponsor endorsement type deals, and but that's never come before football for me. And so I spend so much time in football and give it my full attention. So I kind of want to be a consultant. I don't really know what that word means, but it sounds like they just pay you to second guess people. And no, I'm kidding. I think football has been such a big part of my life. It'd be hard to not have something to do with the game. But, the common transition has been to broadcasting. Probably would not get into coaching. I think I'd be a good coach because I love talking. We have a high school camp for kids, for freshmen through seniors, and love it. Love helping a sophomore high school work at football and talking about it. But I don't think I could handle in the professional ranks the egos, to tell you the truth. It's hard enough, as a player, kind of dealing with all the different personalities. College, I think the recruiting would be hard, to travel all over the road recruiting. And then I think high school or junior high would probably be the most fun, enjoyable age to coach, the kids that really have that passion and love for it. So I don't know. I shake a lot of hands. I keep a lot of business cards, and I kind of wish that I knew somewhat, but I feel I have some time and something will arise. And I hope I can find something that comes close to the rush and the thrill that I get playing football. I'm not too optimistic that I will, but you hope you find something that you get up in the morning and you look forward to going to work. It's just nice to be able to, as a team, to do something together that you've wanted to do for a long time. I think that's been the most rewarding part about it, is being with my team in the weight room, out to dinner, playing golf, kind of looking across at some of my teammates and knowing what we did and how we did it together. It's I say that maybe the best part about it is I haven't had to answer some of the dumb questions that I've had to answer. And there'll be some new questions that I'll have to answer now. There's always another angle and another criticism out there, but the questions have changed for me, at least temporarily. People try to analyze your look. Well, I could tell what you were looking. I could just see the huge relief off your shoulders, and so you might have seen that. I sure didn't feel that. I never got in. I don't know what monkeys on backs mean. I don't. Another expression that is just developed in sports media that I just can't agree with. I don't know what it means. I don't get it. I've never felt that. I've worked as hard as I possibly could every year to be the best player that I could be, to try to help my team win games. I didn't work any harder this past year than I did in previous years. My team played outstanding at the right time, and we got hot, and we accomplished our goal. But I didn't feel like that, there was this huge change in my life because of what happened. I felt very humbled by the whole experience, humbled and fortunate to have been on a team that had a chance to accomplish that. I think it was actually after we beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, which was very much a Super Bowl atmosphere. And I think many players felt like after winning that game that we would go on to win the Super Bowl. And it's been that team that's been such a nemesis for us for so many years. So, I spotted them kind of throughout the melee and went over there and shared a moment with them, shared a hug with them, got a great picture of it. And you talk about a real lasting memory. So, like my mother and my brothers, very supportive of each other. And he's been there for me the whole time. And kind of like when I was a kid, he hugged me, after a win, but he hugged me a lot after some of the tough losses that we've had. And I'm the same way with Eli. I mean, I'm pulling for him, and I pull for my older brother Cooper and his business and anything that's going on with him. Very supportive family. I've never been prouder to be on the field at the same time with another player. I mean, to look across the sideline or to watch, when you're on the sideline and your defense is out there, and to see your little brother out there throwing 2 touchdowns against your defense, a real proud moment for me. I mean, a little bit nervous because, obviously usually you want your defensive end to hit their quarterback as hard as he can. Now you're saying, well, I don't want you to hit my brother that hard, but very proud. Found myself looking at him a lot during the game and kind of watching him, and never been probably as proud to share the field with another player before. Had a very supportive childhood. Had 2 great parents, loved me, supported me, hugged me after games, win or lose. My dad always told me and my 2 brothers, don't ever get too proud or too old to say that you love me, and so and to say that you love each other. So love is a pretty commonly used word in our family. When I talk to my brothers now on the phone midday, we always end the conversation say, "I love you," "Love you, bro." So that kind of gives a pretty good indication of the kind of childhood I had and the kind of family that I had. Parents just learned a lot from the things they said, but really learned a lot by the way that they lived. Very sincere, genuine people, very courteous, very nice, and it helped the fact of what I'm doing currently, the fact that I got to watch my dad as a kid, how he handled himself after games with fans, with the media. And I can remember as a kid just how patient he was and courteous he was to his fans. And so certainly didn't think at 5, 6, 7 years old that, I would be doing that same profession. But at the same time, for Eli and I both, now that we are doing that, I remember just kind of how he handled himself. And remember just that, my mother still today tells me to be nice, and they wouldn't ask for your autograph if they didn't want it. They'll stop asking for it at some point. So my parents still have a big influence on me, still very close with them, but I feel very fortunate to have the kind of the support I had as a child. Being the middle child too, I felt was lucky to have an older brother, Cooper, to kind of look up to, and younger brother Eli to be looked up to. I was a good kid, I think my mother would say. I was a sweet kid, as she would say. Kind of pretty protective, I think. I never liked anybody taking advantage of anybody, as I got older, I guess Cooper went off to college, and he'd bring some college friends home, and I didn't know these guys, and these guys were eating all our food, and this guy was sleeping in my bed, and I didn't like that, because this was kind of my parents' turf, my turf, so I was very non-trustworthy of strangers, I guess you'd say. Pretty kind of a tedious kid, always made my bed up, I always double checked the locks on the doors at night, and kind of fluffed the pillows if I was the last person on the couch, my mom would say. So kind of like things right. I'm still like that today. I'm a list guy, kind of a note taker, organized kind of guy. So I guess I was like that as a kid. I did like school. I worked hard in school. I had to work hard in school. It didn't come naturally to me. I mean, I could never not study for a test and expect to do, even average. I mean, I was a grinder, as you would say. Now I would, might not study till that morning every now and then, but I would, I'd get up at 5 if I had to, and I'm a preparation guy. I was taught at an early age about having a work ethic, and my dad used to give me a lot of quotes, quotes just cut out of a newspaper article or out of a quote book and put them on a bulletin board. And the one that just kind of hit me at an early age, probably 10 years old, it said, it's by Chuck Noll, great coach for the Steelers. It says, pressure is something that you feel only when you don't know what you're doing. And I just kind of hit me right away. And I was playing baseball, basketball at that age, so it certainly applies to football today. You don't feel pressure if you study the game plan and know what to do. But, in schoolwork, the same way. If you know what to do, if you put the time in and study, you really shouldn't feel pressure. Now, you might not ace every test or complete every pass, but you don't feel pressure. Pressure is no fun to perform or to execute that way. And so that was kind of my theme as a young kid, but I worked hard in school. My dad had such a big influence on me. I mean, he was kind of all that wrapped into one, I guess. I mean, he was the guy that even if I, we had a guest speaker at our school or, read something in class or, heard about his story, I would always kind of go back and check that with him. I'd have to kind of, is this right? Would you agree with this, Dad? I mean, he had a big influence on me. And so, he was the guy I went to for advice, and the guy I kind of listened to and still do today. So I went to the same school all, kindergarten through 12th grade, and very disciplined school, academics first all the way, almost to the point of frustration as I got into high school and got serious about sports. And I mean, we were on the field at 4, off by 5:30, no questions about it. I was kind of like, we got some more plays to run. We're not, we haven't gotten this right. And no, it's like I said, it's academics first. And I appreciate it now as I got into college and now that I had that kind of academic background. But went to a good disciplined school and co-ed, which I think is important. I think you got to learn to mingle with both males and females in high school to prepare you for the real world out there. So Can't think of one in particular teacher or one in particular book that just kind of had a big influence on me. But I guess I'd say history was probably my favorite class. I really enjoy hearing about what happened yesteryear, presidents, leaders, just their work, and kind of like what you're doing here today, learning kind of what made them tick and how they got to where they were. I think, I mean, the expectations I had in college and the ones I've had in the professional ranks, I was prepared for because, like you said, I had to deal with it at such a young age. I mean, when I was, playing 7, 8-year-old baseball, and on a travel team in the state, or I mean, everywhere you went, my dad's in the stands. I mean, he's either still playing quarterback for the Saints or just retired, but still very popular guy. I mean, people knew who I was, and kids liked to strike me out, or they liked it if I made an error. That was probably a little bigger deal than if their shortstop made the error. So I learned about it at a young age. It probably made me work a little harder at times, so I didn't mess up, and because nobody likes to be embarrassed, and so when everybody knows who you are, you could be more easily embarrassed because more people are looking at you. So it may have motivated me to work a little harder. I knew people were always looking at me, so it made me kind of think twice about the things that I did. That was a positive out of it, especially for the life that I'm in today. People are always watching. I mean, it wasn't the cell phone camera back then like it is today as an 8-year-old, but it was a good learning tool about making the right decisions. I think it certainly could have been harder, like ex-athletes, kids have it. I think because of the way my parents handled it, it wasn't difficult. It felt normal to me. They very much tried to create a normal childhood. I mean, sometimes it's not normal when you're out to dinner and people come up and talk to him and get his autograph, and that's not normal, I guess you would say. But in times when you weren't in public, very normal, dinners, 8 dinners, a family, always had to get up for breakfast and eat breakfast as a family. My dad used to read a daily devotional to the family. I mean, just, try to keep things normal. Now, when you were out in public, you had to be prepared for what came along with that. So never felt it was difficult. You got used to the things that happened when you were in public, but I think because of just the way they supported us and kind of protected us, it felt very normal. I don't consider myself to be smarter than the next person. My wife went to University of Virginia. I always tell her because she couldn't get into Tennessee, as I joke with her. So, I worked hard. I worked hard in school. I went to college on football scholarship, and sure, you have goals and you have dreams, and I was kind of like most kids. I wanted to play pro football or pro baseball. But that was because that was your answer when they asked you that in class. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a football player. But I was never on this mission to be a football player. I was never, or to say that I knew I was going to be a football player when I was 6 years old. Forget it. People that say that, I still don't believe them. You don't know as a 6-year-old or even as a 16-year-old what you're going to do. So I went to college. I said, I need to get a good education. I want to work hard in school because, like I talked about out there earlier, my older brother was, had a neck injury. Football career's over like that. Nothing he did about it. Okay, he's in school at Ole Miss. He's working hard in school. He's got a lot of friends, and he could be happy without football. So that was kind of my approach: is I need to go someplace where I can be happy if my football career doesn't work out due to injury, due to poor performance. And so felt real comfortable there in college at Tennessee, and worked hard in school, and studied hard and was very meticulous about the academic side of it. And to be named Phi Beta Kappa, I've always was always real proud of that, and still kind of consider that one of my proudest achievements. Sure, absolutely. And you don't always resist them. I mean, there's some things that you want to do, and there are times when you have that talk with yourself and going, I ought to be able to do this. This is not fair that I can't do this, and I'm going to do it. And sometimes you find out, no, you can't do it, and it's wrong, and you get in trouble. But I think there's a learning process there to find out what you can do and what you can't do, and sometimes you have to make a mistake to learn what's right and what's wrong. So, but like all things, you kind of just get used to it, and you just know how you got to be and how what the situation's going to be. It's like today when I go to a movie, I mean, I'm going to have to come in the normal way, but I'm going out that exit door right by the screen, the one that always opens up into a deserted alley, and you don't really know where you are. But because if you go back out the normal way, everybody's waiting for you with all their autograph stuff. And so you just know how it's going to be, and so you adjust and you prepare for it. Probably the toughest decision I had to make at that time, and that was the thing, because I had my degree. That was the tough thing. I mean, if I said, well, I'm not going to graduate, I say I'm going back to school. And I just thought a lot about it. I prayed a lot about it. I sought a lot of advice from my dad. My dad kind of got me some phone numbers of some guys that I wanted to call, some other athletes that had been in that situation, some that stayed, some that went, and talked about, hey, I regretted it, or no, I did the right thing. I left early. So formed kind of a pros and cons list, and I like to write things down. I'm kind of a note taker. I think writing things down kind of creates that blueprint to guide you through the ups and downs of life. And just made my decision, and as soon as I make it, the one thing I do believe, I think it's up to you to make it the right decision after you make it. To say I made the right decision right when you make it, how do you really know? You don't even ask that question. You say, I'm going to make it the right decision by going out and doing it and working hard and not looking back and not second guessing yourself. So, and my senior year in college was great, very rewarding, great memories, friendships that I kind of solidified during that senior year. I stayed injury free, which that was probably the biggest question at times, is what if you get hurt? And I just don't ask that question. People ask me, what if you get hurt? I say, well, I guess I get hurt, but I never go to a game going, if you play that way, that's when you get hurt. So, but I just didn't want to be 50 years old and wondered what my senior year in college would have been like. That kind of was the ultimate factor, I think. I tell them to work hard. I tell them to dream big. Set goals. I believe in kind of writing out your goals and working hard to accomplish those goals. And to keep dreaming. I tell them to have fun. I tell them they need to enjoy trying to accomplish that goal. I think if it's a really young kid, an 8, 10-year-old, I tell them that I didn't know that I was going to be a football player when I was that age, and I tell them to kind of to do everything. I mean, play football, play basketball, play baseball, be in the school play or participate in some sort of student community activity to live it up, and you hope, and I wish them the best of luck. I pull for them, and when I hear about kids that worked as hard as they possibly could and didn't get to achieve their goal, I'm disappointed right there with them. I feel for them, but you learn from it, and it does make you stronger, and you figure out that maybe this wasn't in the cards for me, and I'm going to find a way to do something else, and maybe even be more successful at it. And that's what life's all about. I can't tell you everything that we say in the huddle. No, but people ask that question often, and like I always say, yeah, well, there's women and children in the room. I can't give you the complete answer. For me, it's 95% of it is football jargon. It's football because it goes back to that clock thing, that time thing. I'm always checking that clock. I'm going, there's not enough time. There's not enough time to get all this, for me, because we call a lot of our plays at the line of scrimmage. We change a lot of the plays, and I need time. That time is my friend. That clock is my friend. And I like it when it says 35 seconds. When it says 3 or 4 seconds, that's a bad thing, because I don't have enough time to get what I want to get done. I think less is best in the huddle. I think you got 10 guys out there that have very different ranges of attention spans, but you probably got 5 seconds where you are going to have all of them. You better get what you want to say in that moment. But to give a long one in the huddle or to give a long one in the locker room before the game, you're going to lose a lot of guys early. So, the last one I gave kind of the first play of the Super Bowl when we huddled kind of out there on the field was I just said, guys, I said, we're playing for a lot of people tonight. We're playing for our families, we're playing for our hometowns, your high school coaches, you name it. I said, most importantly, let's play for each other. Let's play for each other tonight. And let's have fun, let's work hard, and let's bring this championship back home. And so, that was, I didn't think a lot about it, didn't plan for that. There's no notes in the huddle, it just it's speaking from the heart, I guess you'd say. So, I think once you say something like that at the beginning, there's not much more to say. You go out and do your job, but the thing is, you have to understand that these guys are going to know the situation. To get in there, I think sometimes there's wasted talk. Hey guys, we really need this one right here. Well, if it's 4th and 5 and there's 5 seconds left on the clock, I think it's pretty obvious that you need this one. So you better serve yourself, saving your breath or talking about the specific football play. So, I've been mic'd up for games before. I think everybody's looking for this, super motivational line somewhere in the huddle. You're probably not going to get that from me. You're going to get more football jargon from me. I think less is best, and say things that are meaningful. Z-post, Deuce right is Deuce. We have D's or 2x2s, and T's are 3x1 sets. So Deuce is, receiver, tight end, receiver. So it's Deuce. It's an even set. Right tells the tight end the Y where to go. So Deuce right means the tight end's here, and the H is here. And then what is it? Waggle 15. 15 is the handoff. It would be the handoff play to the left. Waggle is a form of a fake handoff. So waggle means we're going to fake the handoff of the 15 play. I'm going to fake it, and I'm going to kind of roll back to the right. Waggle also tells the offensive line the protection. They're blocking. Waggle protection. Now, where waggle came from, no idea. It's been in football systems for years, so don't really know the origin of that word. H, throwback. H is that guy, that tight end on the left. He's running a throwback route, which he's going to go over and then go back. And so I'm going to kind of roll to the right, and I'm going to try to throw it to the H, kind of going the over and back, throwback. And what was it? Z post. The Z's on your right, so you're gonna go Deuce right, waggle 15, H throwback, Z post. You're gonna fake waggle 15. You're gonna roll right. You're gonna check your H on the throwback. He's not there. You're gonna throw the Z on the post. Oh, we're kind of unique in that kind of our whole offense is kind of in every week. Our coach tells us you need to know this whole book, because I may call something, in December that we haven't run since, 3 years ago. So it's up to you to know it. It's really, you'd have to say it's over 1,000, only because you can run every single play out of every single formation. So, and that might change it just a little bit, so that multiplies the number of plays. So I'd say somewhere, 1,000 plus, and you end up running a lot of the same plays over and over again each game. But you better be prepared for him to dial up something that he hadn't dialed up in about 5 years or so. I hear the play first, and I'm gonna call it, and nobody's leaving that huddle until I know that they know what to do. There's nothing worse than you not knowing what to do or knowing somebody else knows what to do, that's not a good thing. So I've always put it this way, we act like we're real sophisticated in the NFL. There's a lot of times when I just say, hey, you block him, you get open. It's like you're playing back at recess or in the playground. It turns into street ball real fast. We just act like it's real sophisticated with Deuce right, waggle 15, terminology. It still comes down to, hey, block him, tackle him, get open, I'll throw it to you, let's go score.